So saying the words DCEU, or DC Cinematic Universe, may put a sour taste in your mouth. After all, most of their films have really disappointed fans, such as Batman vs. Superman, Suicide Squad, and Justice League. These DC films have sort of caused their DC universe to become a DC disaster, a DC disaster, a DC disaster. Okay, what I'm trying to say is the DCEU has been a disaster. A DC disaster. But while the DC Cinematic Universe has sort of fallen apart, I think their future may be the glue that could put it all back together and save this mess of a world they've created. Their next phase of films sound pretty great, and it seems like they're finally finding their footing. And I believe DC is really about to redeem itself. So today I'm going to give the reasons why I think the future of DC looks incredible. So I think the first reason why the future of DC looks great is because they are fixing their mistakes. And trust me, they have made quite a few. So let's dive into some of the ways they're actually fixing them. Number one, they are bringing back Henry Cavill's Superman. Now, for a while, we've all thought Henry Cavill's Superman was over. It seemed like he had a falling out with the studio, and especially after Ben Affleck left.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
There were no signs of Henry Cavill returning, until a few weeks ago, articles began popping up that said he's in talks to come back as Superman. Now, it's not 100% confirmed yet, but I think bringing back Henry Cavill's Superman is huge, because we forget he started this DCEU, and for him to just disappear would be really strange. Like, imagine if Iron Man just disappeared in the middle of the MCU. But the fact that they had a falling out and now Cavill is coming back means that they made up, and that Cavill wants to come back because he sees his Superman has a great future ahead. And maybe he'll get to appear in Shazam too, and maybe we'll actually get to see his head this time. That'd be nice. But I just think it's really cool that Warner isn't just trying to move on past Cavill's Superman. They want him back. And the fact that Cavill sounds super excited really shows me that DC has fixed their mistake of almost losing Cavill's Superman. And maybe when they bring back Cavill, they can also bring back his real upper lip, because I don't want to look at that monstrosity again. The second way DC is fixing their mistakes is by rebooting what didn't work. So DC is in the process of rebooting Batman. Sorry, Ben Affleck.
Hello, darkness.
And they're also giving Suicide Squad a soft reboot with James Gunn. And let's start off with Batman. Now, Ben Affleck's Batman was not as bad as people say he was, but, like, he just was not as good as the previous incarnation. Again, sorry, Ben Affleck.
Hello, dark.
And now that Ben Affleck is gone, and it definitely seems like he's done with DC, DC has to figure out, well, what do we do with Batman? And I think they are taking the right approach by rebooting him and giving him a solo film. I think DC is taking Batman back to standalone because they know it works better from the Nolan films. I think this is a great idea. Batman always wants to work alone, and now he can. But it would be cool to see him team up, but I think they're doing the right move here. They're starting over and taking Batman back to what worked and expanding on it. Also, Suicide Squad made lots of money, but nobody liked it. So what do? They take the few characters that worked, like Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. They keep them, and they give the rest a soft reboot to make it new and fresh with a mostly new cast and a new director. See, I think this is some smart moves by DC. They're taking what worked and rebooting the rest to make it feel new and unique. And I think these reboots will be a good way to start over from some of their mistakes, like Ben Affleck's Batman.
Hello, darkness, my old.
Okay, number trace, that's 3 in French, if you didn't know, is that they're no longer playing catch-up. Now, DC has been playing a good old-fashioned game of catch-up with Marvel. That's why they rushed Batman vs. Superman and Justice League. It's because they wanted to skip right over the setup movies and go right to their Avengers movie. But man, there's a lot of problems when you try to rush things. See, when you rush out something quickly, it often feels like it was rushed out quickly. I know, crazy, right? But when you rush something, you often don't have time to see your mistakes. Like, maybe if DC wasn't rushing so fast when they were writing the script for Batman vs. Superman, someone would have said, hey, that bit where they stop fighting because their moms have the same name? That's kinda silly. And maybe stuff like that would have been fixed if they weren't too busy playing catch up. But as of recently and looking ahead, it seems like DC is really slowing down and relishing their time. Get it? 'Cause it's a relish. And the final mistake DC is fixing is number 4. Learning not everything has to be connected. Now, Marvel has built their franchise on their connected universe, and that's what DC tried to do, except theirs fell pretty flat. But recently, DC seems to have learned that just because it works for Marvel, it doesn't mean that they also have to do it. But recently, DC has started to do more creative solo films like Joker, and it also seems like they want the Batman out of the DCEU too. Not everything has to be connected, some things just work better alone. I think DC doing this is really cool because it opens up so many new doors. When you don't have to focus on continuity and the timeline, the stories can just exist. And I think by DC learning this, it could give us more creative films in the future, like Joker, or hopefully a Calendar Man movie. Yes, that's a real villain. Okay. Oh, don't act like you wouldn't go see a Calendar Man movie. Okay, now let's move on to the next category of why I think the future of DC looks incredible. And that category is directing and acting. Number 1, DC's future directors. DC has really been assembling quite the directing crew for their upcoming movies, and they have some of the freshest and best up-and-coming directors working right now. Let's start off with David F. Sandberg, who helmed Lights Out, Annabelle Creation, Shazam, and is currently working on Shazam 2. David has proven himself as a huge up-and-coming director right now. They also have Patty Jenkins. Now, I did some research, and apparently she is not related to Old Man Jenkins from SpongeBob. I'll admit that did disappoint me quite a bit, but she is still a pretty good director. And after she helmed the first Wonder Woman and the response to that film, I'm sure her coming back to the second one will be another huge hit for DC. Also, directing the Flash movie, Andy Muschietti, fresh off of It Chapter 1 and 2, which were huge hits for Warner Brothers. So he's a really good member to have on your DC directing team. Matt Reeves is also joining to direct the Batman, and maybe Todd Phillips will make more DC villain movies after he made Joker. Hopefully starting with that Calendar Man movie, and now that would be awesome. Another heavy hitter is James Wan, who directed Aquaman and hopefully will come back for the second one. But just like, look at this picture, you can tell he's a good director because he's doing that square hand thing. Like, only good directors can do that thing. Like, only good directors do that. No, but seriously, Wan is a huge directing talent for DC, and he's already worked with Warner Brothers a lot. Also, this may seem like a weird director to be really excited for, but Janoon Khaled-Serra is directing Black Adam. And I just find his movies really entertaining and fun. He made movies like the Plane movie, the Train movie, the Shark movie, and the Boat movie. But I just think he makes really fun movies, and I can't wait to see what he does with Black Adam. Also, DC has James Gunn directing the new Suicide Squad movie. And I mean, after he made the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, I'm super excited to see what he does. So with all these talented directors working for them, I have no doubt that we're gonna get some real amazing stories. And I think getting great filmmakers together is the first step in making great films. And I believe that DC has a quality lineup of directors for their future. Okay, now let's move on to number 2. Hopefully no more studio interference. So it's been reported that DC has done a lot of meddling when it comes to their films. And I get it, they're the ones paying, they should have a say. But when they get too involved and too controlling, it can lead to messy films. Hey, just like Justice League. But as of recently, with Aquaman, Shazam, Birds of Prey, all those productions seem to have gone pretty smooth. And that makes me think that DC is finally learning its lesson and just letting their filmmakers do their job. Maybe DC finally realized, hey, you know, maybe, just maybe here, maybe if we don't control our directors' every moves while breathing down their necks, they might actually want to make films with us. But I hope that DC has finally learned their lesson to just let their filmmakers make great films. After all, that is kind of what they're supposed to do. And I hope that Warner Brothers won't get in their way too much. But judging by their recent films that seem to have gone smooth, I think they finally learned their lesson. Number 3 in this category is DC's future actors. Now, great actors don't guarantee great movies, but hopefully that means they'll give us good performances and good characters. I mean, they have Robert Pattinson as Batman, and yes, I know he's the sparkly vampire from Twilight, but if anything, that just means he's used to turning into a bat, so that should honestly help him. Also, they will have Dwayne Johnson as Black Adam, and I don't know how they snagged him before Marvel did, but good on them. And the fact that he's wanted to play this character for so many years, and he's stuck around, makes me think he's really passionate about this movie and its character. And if we're going to be talking about acting, we have to look at the huge cast for the new Suicide Squad movie. I mean, they have Margot Robbie, and Taika Waititi, and Pete Davidson, and oh my gosh, is that John Cena? They got John Cena? They got him? John Cena? They got him. They got John Cena. They got John Cena. They got John Cena. They actually got John Cena. Oh, sorry, I was just reserving my tickets a year in advance for this movie. I mean, they got John Cena, fresh off of his Oscar nomination from Playing with Fire.
And the Oscar goes to...
I mean, I could have made this whole video on why the future of DC looks incredible, and my only point could have been that they had John Cena, and that would have been enough. Marvel is here. DC with John Cena is way right there. It's like right there. John Cena can play Calendar Man. But yeah, all their upcoming cast and their existing cast already are all fantastic, and I can't wait to see the performances they're gonna bring to their films. Okay, let's move on to the third category of why I think the future of DC looks great, and that is that they're expanding their universe. And the first way they're doing this is by doing Flashpoint. Now, if you don't know, Flashpoint is a comic story where Flash goes... Yeah, he does that. But when he comes back, he creates a ton of crazy timelines and evil versions of heroes. And it's honestly really cool, and this story is what the Flash movie is based on. And the announcements they've made about this movie sound so cool. Like they're gonna have several Batmans, including Michael Keaton, who might return as Batman from the 1989 movie. That is crazy. But the fact that this movie is gonna set up alternate dimensions and a multiverse, like all of this is gonna expand DC's universe so much and open the doors to tons of creative stories they could tell. Like they could do an Into the Batverse with all the different Batmans coming together. Or they could do a Bat to the Future, where like Batman goes back in time and he like breaks up his parents and he has to like get them back together just so they can still ultimately die together. You know what, maybe don't make that one. I think by DC using this Flashpoint story as a stepping stone could be their way to really expand their universe and have this multiverse where they can tell so many cool stories. And they could build an amazing universe that could actually rival Marvel's. Okay, the second way they're expanding their universe is by being able to take more risks. See, Marvel is owned by Disney, and yes, they are allowed to do certain things, but if they ever go too extreme, you can bet money their Mickey Mouse overlord will step in and stop them. But see, this is where DC has the advantage. They're not a family brand, so they can make whatever they want. I mean, Disney could not have made a movie that told us we live in a society, but DC can, and they did. By the way, we live in a society. But like seriously, Disney could not have made Joker, but DC doesn't have anything like that family brand holding them back, so they can take way more risks and experiment more. And we're seeing how DC is using this to their advantage, because they're making more creative films like Joker that are so weird and different, and using the R rating for Birds of Prey, like things that Marvel can't do. DC's best way to beat their competition is to do things that their competition can't do. Like telling us we live in a society. But I think that DC is learning that they don't have to copy Marvel, because they already have so much potential without the boundaries that Disney has. And I think by them taking more risks and experimenting, they're gonna find new things that actually work, that are gonna allow them to expand their universe so much without the limits that Marvel has in their universe. And now let's move on to my last category of why I think the future of DC looks spiffy. Yes, I said spiffy. And that is that DC is really caring for their fans. And to be fair, I know that you could say they don't actually care for the fans, they just want the money. But honestly, I don't think that's true, and let's get into why. Number one, they are actually making Shazam 2. Now, this may not seem major, but I think it is. Shazam did not make a ton of money. It was only really a modest success. Of course, if the world was just, then Shazam would have made $1 billion, and that Captain Marvel would have made the $366 million. But whatever. Only if the world was just. But I think that we all thought DC was gonna go, well, the first one did okay, but I think we're just gonna take that little bit of profit and just kinda let it be. But that's not what they did. And they actually are going to make a second one.
A surprise, to be sure, but a welcome one.
I honestly think they did this just for the fans. Because while not a crazy amount of people saw the movie, most of the people that did seem to have really enjoyed it. And I think it has like a 90-something in Rotten Tomatoes. I said in Rotten Tomatoes. I was supposed to say on Rotten Tomatoes. Stupid. And I think that DC saw that the fans really enjoyed it, and so they were like, well, let's take the plunge and make another one for the fans. And I just think that's really commendable for them to just look past how much money it made. Like, if Disney's Captain Marvel had made $400 million, they would not have greenlit a sequel, no matter how well regarded it was. But DC looks at this film and they're like, you know what, the fans really respond to it, so I think we should give them more. And I think that just really shows that they want to please their fans, and they care about them. And the second way they're showing their care for fans is the big one. They are actually making the Snyder Cut. And yes, they're making the Snyder Cut, not just releasing it. Because people are saying this could cost them up to $70 million. You could make Playing with Fire twice for that amount. Yes, that's actually true. Wow, 2 Playing with Fires. Wouldn't that be awesome? But like, people do not understand how big of a deal this is. Like, DC spending this much money on something, and yes, you could say it's just promotion for HBO Max. But this project is so big, I don't even know if it will be profitable. But the fact that they're actually making it, I think shows me that they want to please their fans that want this Snyder Cut so bad. And also, the original Justice League was a box office disappointment. It's not like the Snyder Cut is a guaranteed hit for them. I just don't think what DC is doing with this Snyder Cut should be overlooked. They are spending so much money on this that I think it shows that they are committed to give the fans what they want. And I think them showing that kind of care to them is really amazing. Oh, I should have said incredible, because the video is called Incredible. What a missed opportunity. Okay, so if the DC universe was an ice cream, it would probably be Rocky Road. Because it's been a rocky road. But I believe that the future looks bright, and I think that all those points I talked about all together show that DC is really about to redeem itself. And their future may show that they're on par to take on Marvel. And honestly, now is the perfect time for DC to come out swinging, because Marvel has lost a lot of momentum since Endgame, but DC has been slowly building momentum with Aquaman, Shazam, and Birds of Prey. And honestly, if DC's future turns out as great as it looks, I think their rocky beginning might just sort of feel like a bad dream and be forgotten. DC's future looks brighter than it's ever looked before, and I personally cannot wait to see what's in store for the future of DC. Whew, okay. Finally, this video is over. It's okay, guys, you don't have to hear me talk anymore. Whew. That was a lot. I used a lot of words. I don't even know what some of them meant, but I said so many words. Okay, thank you guys for actually watching this video. I don't know how you guys actually made it to the end, but if you did, maybe leave a comment saying John Cena. Because why wouldn't you leave a comment saying John Cena? But if you leave a comment saying John Cena, I'll give it one of those little heart doodad things. And then you can brag to all your friends that you got a heart from Carter. Whoa, that's crazy. Instant popularity for you. But seriously, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.